to see you all. Okay, so for the records again, wish you good evening. And for some people, it might be good morning for who are joining from some other countries. Okay, right. Hope you can hear me and hope you can see me, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now you have got your research topics allocated, and then I ask you to upload your research articles as well. Some people are 22 hours late, 30 hours late. It's substantial. Some people are substantially late, isn't it? Right, but again. Okay. So I'll download your articles. So I'm going to check later whether the article that you submitted is what we agreed upon. The allocated one. Let's see that. No, now for example, let's see whether this student has got what's being allocated. This is Ilham's article. Because he happens to be the first student, so listed over there. So the topic is revisiting the tax evasion. So let's see. Ilham. Yep, he has got the same thing. So likewise, I'm going to cross-check revisiting the tax evasion. Right, so good. And also likewise, so I download the articles. And also that day I asked you to select the variables. So let's see. 52 attempts. And we can see we can grade it. For an example, we can request grading. Now the student. This is Nissan Sala. So Nissan Sala's article we can check. Now this for an example, right? So let's go to Nissan Sala's article, what has been allocated to her. Nissan Sala. Yeah. So her article is Green Finance, Sustainable Disclosure and Economic Implications. So here you have it. And she has the variables and measurement. Green investment volume, very good. Green bond insurance. Likewise, she has given the variables. And this is her history. That's what she was doing. Even the history is saved. Good. Likewise, I'll be grading those things. Info grade. Yeah, so that's what she has got. Right. So that's about this particular assignment. Is the grading. Different things are there. Okay. Anyone had any issues? Anyone did have any issues in where you had no variables? Are there any students who had no variables? Variables නැති තත්ත්වයක් තිබුණාද කාටද? Where you did not encounter variables. How many did you have variables?
Sir, my one was based on case studies.
Oh, in that case studies, I think if it is case studies, you don't have variables.
Yes, it's a qualitative approach, I guess.
In that case, you don't have, you will not have variables.
Yes, there are, I note some justifications why we cannot have such variables for the topic I have got.
Good. So that's the justification that you have got. Because
Yes.
not all, not here. That's a nice thing that you are telling us. Because some studies might not have variables, indeed. How about others? Then we have Nalin. Nalin, do you had any variables? Nalin? Variables තිබුණාද? Nalin කියන එක ඇහෙන්නේ නැහැ නේද? Yeah, Fonseca?
Yes, sir.
කොහොමද පුතා ඔයාගේ තත්ත්වය? Did you
Hello.
have any variables?
Yes, sir.
Ah,
Yes.
yes, Nalin. Right, Nalin
Yes,
ಗೆ
sir.
දැන් තමයි
Can you
ඇහෙන්නේ.
hear me?
Now we can hear you.
Yes, sir. I have only one variable.
What's that, puta?
ROA, rate of asset.
Return on asset.
So sorry, return on asset.
Very curious now that one.
Yeah.
Nalin. බලමු Nalin පුතාගේ we'll see. සාමාන්‍ය එහෙම වෙන්න බෑ. What's your surname?
HDN.
No, surname.
HD.
Pereira.
No, Madhuan.
Surname. Madhuvancha. මේක නේද? Just
Yes,
sustained reporting enhance from firm's profitability.
Yeah.
You have two variables, puta. One is sustainable reporting. That's a variable itself. The level of reporting is one variable. Profitability is another variable.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. In the
Yeah.
that article, I got only one. That's it.
In the article, no, puta. We'll see your article.
Yeah.
Madhuans.
Yes.
Madhushani. Me ඔයා නේද මේ?
Yeah, this one.
Madhu. මේකනේ.
Also.
So go to the methodology section. Yeah.
Okay.
Measurement of variables.
Yes.
The dependent variable is what? Is firm performance in terms of ROA. ROA.
Yes.
Then it says another one. CSP. And its components calculate both in terms of level and quality of information disclosed. CSP is put the other variable.
Okay. CSP stands. Yes, sir.
ඒක ඔයා බලනකොට කියන්න ඕනේ. CSP can stand for anything.
Okay.
CSP, RO is a common one. We can see CSP is what? ඒක කොහේ different කරලා තියෙන්නේ. RO is a common one. But CSP, they should have defined. Maybe CS performance. Corporate social performance.
Okay.
CSP is corporate social performance. It's not a common one. ROA, ROE, those are common terms.
Yeah.
So they have, you might know that, but the different researchers might use different terms. So here here the variable is corporate social performance.
Okay. Corporate social performance.
Okay, good. So variable so you have to read the article very well. All the students, you have to read the article very well. And then only you'll be able to see what's really going on, isn't it? Okay, Nalin, thank you for that. Just,
Okay.
don't worry.
Okay.
Okay. Right. So that's Nalin. Ooh. Okay, sorry. Right. Any other student who wants to clarify something? දැන් මේ සමරතුංගට මොකද උනේ?
සර් මම මේ රිසර්ව් ලිස්ට් එකෙන් එකක් දැම්මා. සර්ට මම මේල් එකක් දැම්මා සර් ඒක.
අන්න හරි very good. අන්න මේල් එක තමයි දාන්න. ඒකට තමයි මට කතා කරන්න.
ඔව් සර්.
නේද?
ඔව්.
දැන් ඒක අපි මෙතන දාලා ඉවරයක් කරමු. ඔයා සමරතුංගද?
ඔව් සර්.
මේ ඉන්නේ සමරතුංග. Corporate governance and financial distress. මේකනේ.
ඔව් ඒකෙන් සර්.
ඒක පදනම් කරගෙන දැම්මද මොනවාරි අතට? ඉස්සේ
ඔව් සර්.
බැලුවද ඒක?
ඔව්. අප්ලෝඩ් කරා සර්.
Okay. Trying to connect. Okay, Samaratunga, congratulations. You have got also an article. Okay, ඊළඟට ඉන්නවා okay පුතා. ඊට පස්සේ ෆොන්සේකා ඉන්නවා. ෆොන්සේකා ඉන්නවද? Are you there?
Yes, I have selected topic from the reserve list.
මට ඉතින් කිව්වද ඒක?
ඔව් සර්. මම ඊමේල් එකක් දැම්මා සර්. කතා කරත් එක්ක.
මට කතා කරන්නේ නේ.
ඔව් සර්.
ගායනී නේද? You are that WNS person.
No, sir.
එනවා කොහෙද work කරන්නේ? මේ ගායනී
Monato University sir.
Monato University. My God. What are you doing there?
Yes.
What are you doing there in Monato University?
Finance division sir.
Finance division. Oh, good name. You are in the BSAA, under the care of the BSAA, no? BSAA is the CFO of a university. ඔයා තමයි අර audit quality matter එක කියන්නේ හරියට I can remember. Yeah, you spoke to me.
Yes.
අපේ ගුරුවරුන්ගේ පඩි ටික හොඳට හදන්න
The
ඕන.
impact of yes.
Okay.
Okay.
හරි නේද? The impact of corporate social responsibility on tax එකත් හරියට කපන්න 100% අය. Right. Okay, now these students had issues, so now the making wala did you now answer the question? I extended the deadline because of you. දැන් question එකක් අහලා තිබුණා මේකේ variables මොකද්ද කියලා. දිස්නිකා දැම්මද ඒක? දිලිනිකා.
ඔව් සර් මම variables 7ක් අප්ලෝඩ් කරා.
variables 7ක්. variables 7ක් නෙවෙයි. variables 7ක් තියෙන බෑ. 7ක් තිබුණාද? You have 7 දිලිනිකා. නෑනේ වදාළනේ.
Sir, I uploaded.
Right, let me check. Maybe. No, you might have uploaded, but you have not answered the question. මේ question එකක් අහලා තියෙනවා. ඒකේ question එකට answer කරලා නැහැ මොකද? You are not there. අර්ධ වශයෙන් තමයි පුතා comply කරලා තියෙන්නේ. මේක at least I uploaded the article. Right. So let me see. මේ 50 දෙනයි තමයි selected research article එක දාලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒකත් නේ. දිලිනිකා submit ඔයාගේ surname එක කොහොමද යන්නේ?
Fonseca.
Fonseca නේ ඒකයි. Okay. Fonseca මේ WAGD නේද?
Yes.
ඉතින් අප්ලෝඩ් කරලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒකයි ඉන්නේ. Right, it's no problem. බලමු අපි let's see whether you have answered that variable thing. Let's check that. Make Fonseca. From where are you from, brother? Fonseca, කොහෙද ගෙවල්? Is Professor Mangala Fonseca known to you? We had a very senior professor called Professor Mangala Fonseca. Fonseca මේකට නම් answer කරලා නැහැ. variables මොකද්ද කියන එක නම් පුතා answer කරලා නැහැ. What is or what are your variables? ඒක නෑ නේද? But right, any other student who has not got a research article? Now is the time that you can speak out, and I'll try to help you. Again in the cover. Any other student who is not having a research article allocated? Anyone? Now we have 30 people. ඔක්කොටම තියෙනවා වගේ නේද? But I think everyone is having one. But let me check my emails whether someone has written to me. Whether I'm not going to check my emails usually because I get several emails per day. Therefore, you have to speak to me as well if you have an issue. Right. Okay. 16D EXP. They are an exceptional batch. That's why they have put EXP. Oh, sorry, EXP stands for something else. මේ පෙරේරා මොකක්ද දෙයක් කියලා තියෙනවා. Research topic selection. මේ ළමයා ඉන්නවද? චාවිත්‍රි Dushanth. Is this person there? She's WCD period. lectures එන්නතෝ කොහොමද පුතා කරන්නේ? WCD Pereira කියලා ගමු. Pereira. This is MAD Pereira is there. And then another Pereira is there. PW something. PW DSP Pereira. Where's WCD Pereira? Yeah, ඉල්ලනවා reserve list එකේ දාපු එක. Auditor sustainability focus. ඉතින් වෙලා තියෙන නිසා දෙන්න පුළුවන්. We'll see whether it's gone. No, it's not gone. Make a gear reserve. Yeah, this is there. Okay, Pereira, in absence here, I'm going to allocate you this one. lectures එන්නේතු මන් දන්නේ කොහොම කරන්නද යාගේ. WCD Pereira. Where's Pereira known for? What has happened to Pereira? So Pereira is getting married, so she is not available. Is that, so I have to make hypothesis. No? Okay. So that person is also given one. Right. Then Ishara Samartunga. Ah, that's Ishara, no?
මම අර රිසර්ව් ලිස්ට් එකෙන් ගත්තා.
අන්න හරි ඒවා රයිට්. ඒතර වාගේ වැඩෙත් හරි. ඊට පස්සේ සතිකා. මම හිතා සතිකට එදා මන් දුන්නා ඩන් කියලා. මේ ටික තමයි. Anyone else who is having any issues? So I have allocated 57 topics. 57. Any questions, concerns that you are having? One more questions, the concerns, Do you have any questions, concerns? අර ආටිකල් හොයාගන්න බැරි වෙච්ච කට්ටිය හොයාගත්තද? There was a student I could remember who was telling that the person could not find out the article. ඒක හොයාගත්තද පුතා?
Yes, I found out.
Right. ඒ පුතානේ. Okay. Good. So we say innovation is the mother of necessity. Isn't it? If you want something, you know from where to get that. Innovation is mother of necessity. Right. Okay, that's good. Okay, so today we shall discuss a new topic. Right. So we shall discuss a new topic today. So what's the topic we are going to discuss today? So we go to the LMS. I think it was sampling. No. We started actually quantitative data analysis, isn't it? We started quantitative data analysis and we were discussing. So we discussed last week about ethics. And we started with the nature of quantitative. The nature of quantitative data analysis. First KG study, we had a look. So last week I taught you the difference between the construct, right, and variable, indicator, and measurement. So I took several examples as well. And I gave you a small exercise as well. In your own study, how to, or what are the variables and how to measure it. Right. So let's continue from there. Now, some students have got their answers absolutely correct. But some students got it wrong. Not wrong, not very correct. Now, there was one instance, the student had not identified that corporate social performance is one of the variables. Right? So likewise, you might make mistakes if you are not sure what you are talking about. So therefore, now what you need to do is read your studies very well. Right? Read your studies very, very well. Read them very well and try to understand what they have done. Now in the future assignments also, I'm going to ask you to do different things. And of course, I told you that you have to come up with a literature review now. And so please try to find similar articles. Similar articles. And I'll ask you in some, maybe after a couple of weeks, to submit the Excel file. Right, submit the Excel file on that particular topic. That the research that you have collected. Okay. So therefore, you need to do a literature review as well as you have to do the proposal. Okay. Right. So today, let's try to understand why we measure things. Why we measure things. Why we need to measure. Now, let's say, for an example, your marks that you get for research methodology subject. Now, let's say there are 57 students. In fact, I see there are 57 students who are active. I told you it indicates 60 or something, but 65 students are who are active. So my question is this. Your marks that you are going to obtain, or let's say you had the exam and you got marks for the research methodology subject. My question is this. Is it a variable? Is it your variable? Is it, can we treat it as a variable? Your marks that you obtained for your research methodology subject. Can we treat it as a variable? Pavani, what's your idea? පුළුවන් දෙයක variable එකක් කියලා සලකන්න.
I think yes, sir.
Very good answer. Yes, it is a variable. Why? It varies. Pavaniගේ marks උයි නලින්ගේ marks උයි එකක් නෙවෙයි. It varies based on the student. It varies. So it's a variable. Good. Now I told you when it's a variable, right? I think මතක් කරන්න නේද? Measurement එකට එන්න කලින් මේ මොකෝ පොඩි slide එකක් දාන්න. Right. So let's say the variable is your research methodology marks. Marks for the research methodology. Subject. So then first comes the concept or the construct. What's the construct? Before the variable, we have to identify the construct. What's the construct? Construct has several dimensions. What's the construct behind this research methodology marks if we take it as a variable? What's the construct? How they get answer kara? Gonala good. What's the construct? Samarthunga? Fonseca? What's the construct?
So basis එක.
Basis එක. Good. Actually, the construct is Puta. Time. Actually, Puta, the construct is knowledge. Knowledge again one. Knowledge. Knowledge. Knowledge has different dimensions. Research methodology, digital business strategy, and different dimensions are there. So you are looking at the construct is the knowledge or your skill, knowledge, whatever. Knowledge has different dimensions. You are taking the research methodology. Right. Then we can say the indicator. What's the indicator? Marks. Marks is the indicator. Marks for the final exam. Then what's the measure? You can say measurement. Marks for the final exam conducted in May 20. May April. April, but April or maybe April 2025. So measurement is very precise. You can say total marks. So measurement is very precise. Right. So you take the knowledge and then you take the variable as the particular subject's marks. Then the indicator is the marks for the final examination. Measurement is the total marks. for the final exam conducted in April 2024 for a particular student. For a particular student. So this you have to understand. Right. Now I'm going to ask you the question, why you should measure this? Why do you measure things? They will measure. That's the next question I'm going to ask you. Now you know about the difference between the construct or the concept, which is a larger thing. You take one aspect of that you call it a variable. Then the indicator is something that indicates that particular variable. It's marks. Knowledge could be also tested in other different ways. Right? Not only marks, you can see the application aspects as well. Then measurement is you exactly tell the marks for a particular subject for the final exam, total marks for the final examination of research method subject. Search methodology subject. And you can see automatically the words are coming. How? The mom make a gahadime on mema villa. I'm using an AI technology for that. Here is the AI tool I'm using. You have to pay for that, but again, I have paid for that and I have got it. It's this one. This software. This software is called Light Key. Light Key. So this shows how many minutes I have saved during this last month. Because it completes the sentences. Right. Anyway, I type in the computer, it gives that. It's AI. So yes. So that's the concept, variable, indicator, and measurement. So the next question is, why you measure? Why you measure variables?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir,
Yes,
yeah, if you don't mind, sir, can you please explain what do you mean by indicator there? I didn't get that.
Very good. Indicator means Puta. Indicator means, as the name says, what now to indicate the variable, to represent the variable, what you take. Do you understand? You can indicate
yeah, marks for the final examination means for the research methodology subject, right?
Yes, of course. The indicator is the marks for that subject.
Yeah, so sir, what is the difference between measurement and indicator? In measurement also
Measurement,
marks, right?
A very good question. Measurement and indicator, what's the difference? In measurement, it's very precise. You know, indicator is marks. Marks වලින් තමයි knowledge එක indicate කරන්න කියලා මට දෙකයි. නමුත් marks වලින් විතරක් පුතා knowledge එක indicate කරන්නේ. You can take several other things. දැන් මෙලිබන් මුදලාලිගේ ගත්තොත් එයාගේ knowledge එක measure කරන්න පුළුවන්ද marks වලින්? Now let's say we take Navlok Mudalali or Malibu Mudalali. I heard those guys cannot, those people, those individuals cannot write, or they are not literate. But if you take that criteria, you will put Malibu Mudalali or Navlok Mudalali as very, foolish guys. But really, they are employing thousands of chartered accountants and engineers, professors, doctors. So marks is only one aspect. That's only one indicator of a person. Do you understand, Puta?
Yes, sir. Yes. Got it.
But measurement, it's a very precise thing. You are going to say total marks for the final examination of the research method subject conducted in April 2024 for a particular student. It's very, very, very precise. මේක තමයි difference.
Hi, sir. Thank you.
Very good question. හොඳ question එකක් පුතා.
Thank you.
So ask these good questions. Then පුතා, it's not only beneficial for you, it's beneficial for all other students. Very good question. Excellent. How do you question එක ඇහුවේ?
Niranjana,
Really
sir.
appreciate it. Niranjana, thank you පුතා එක ඇහුවට. ඉතා වැදගත් question එක.
Thank you, sir.
Right, good. දැන් පුතා ඊළඟ question එක තමයි, why do you measure things? Why do you measure variables? අපි යමු මේක පුතාලගේ දුවලගේ. No, I tell පුතා for both genders, right? පුතා කියලා කියන්නේ මම දැන් දුවලටත් කියන්නේ පුතා, පුතාලටත් කියන්නේ පුතා. ඒක that's how I tell. Even if you are elderly than me, I will call you puta. If you are one of my students, right? So, right. Up here, then a student getting D Silva is there. D Silva kiyanabal. Why do you measure things? Yes.
To get an understanding or provide an explanation about the subject we have selected.
Yeah,
I mean, if we
I think what
get the previous example, the examination one, to get an understanding about how many students have gained knowledge about the subject.
Very good, very good, very good. That means to see the level of something, level of that period. Now, if you don't measure, can you tell the level? Now, I measure D Silva's marks and tell you have got 78. I measure Pavani's marks and I say it's 85. I'm just taking up these numbers, right? I'll take Mr. A's marks and tell it's 38 and he has failed. So likewise, you will see you measure things to see the level of that variable. Now, why do you measure the temperature? To see the level of that variable. To see the level. So that's what DC was telling. Why you measure a variable? Yes, to see the level of that variable. Level, like you can say the degree. Opperman. Degree of that variable. Here the level of marks. That means how much marks that you have got. Second, there's a second reason also why you measure. We'll ask another student. Afraz Ali. Ali Putak, can you tell us why do you measure things?
Hello, sir.
Yes, Putak. Hello.
So for the it's for the purpose of providing a feedbacks on.
Yes, it's based on the level. You measure the level and therefore you can provide a feedback. That's correct. Okay. Thank you. We have Nisal. Nisal, why do you think we need to measure things? I'll tell you the reason. The second reason is to see the difference. To see the difference between and among individuals and companies. You see the difference between and among, between two things, among more than two things. Now, for an example, if I want to see the difference between A and B, student A and B, can I look at the difference if I don't measure it? Can I see the difference between things if I don't measure it? Can or can't? You can't. How can you say a student is better than the other student? So here one student will get maybe a first class. Then a student might get a second upper or a second low or just a general pass. So likewise, to differentiate between and among individuals companies, you measure things. There's a third reason as well why you measure. Why is that? What's the third reason? To see the relationship between different variables. Now, say for an example, I want to see the number of hours you study, and then the RM marks. Now, how many variables are there? Number of hours you study and your RM marks. How many variables are there over there? What variables are there? How many variables? There are two variables. Very good. Number of hours and then the research method marks. Now, if you want to see the relationship between these two variables, you need to measure them. Right? If you want to see the relationship between these two, you have to measure them. Okay? You have to measure them. If you don't measure, can you see the relationship? You can't. Statistically, you cannot see that. Now, what kind of relationship you can see between number of hours you study and the marks that you'll get for a subject? A positive relationship or a negative, or a what kind of relationship you can expect?
Positive relationship.
Ah, very good. A positive relationship. I see that always. Students who put a lot of hours for their studies, they get good grades, good marks. So therefore, please kind of remember, these are the three reasons why we measure variables, right? So I just took an example. The answer is there. Why measure? To see the level of variable, then to see the difference between and among, right? People, organizations. Now, if I want to see whether JKH is better than HEMAS, then I should measure that the performance, financial performance, maybe ROA, ROE, or employee satisfaction, or any other balance scorecard item. Then also, the third reason is to see the relationship between, for an example, revenue and ROA. If revenue is going up, whether ROA is going up. Right? Not necessarily sometimes. If the cost of goods sold is also going up, then the ROA might not go up as you see under revenue. So is it clear? I taught you the difference among concept, variable, indicator, and measurement. And also I gave you a small task. The small task is where I gave you to take your own article and do a small analysis on what's the variable and measurement. And I even gave you some feedback for certain students. Right now, you have to be very clear. What are your variables and what are, at least now you don't need to sometimes know. Actually, you don't need to know about everything like the concept. If you know, that's better. But at least you have to know what's your variable, right? What's your variable and how you measure it. So that's why I gave you that in this assignment. Some students have done it perfectly, but some students have not fully understood. But it's fine. That's the whole idea. That's the whole idea of this assignment, to make you understand that there are a lot of things that we have to read and understand. And today is a very happy day for me. Today we had the FGS conference, Faculty of Graduate Studies of Conference, and the FGS conference. So of the University of Sri Jayawardenepura. So Faculty of Graduate Studies. So Actually, this faculty is for graduate students. Now you are undergraduates doing the first degree. Now that is for master students, then MPhil students, PhD students likewise. But anyone can submit articles, research articles. So I guided a student, an SAB student, Dilima. I guided her as to do her research. She is an SAB student, was an SAB student. Now she's a graduate of SAB student. Right now she's a graduate. So just last year she got her degree. And she did her undergraduate degree. And I asked her, why not you present it? So she presented. Among them, the presentation, there were academics, there were some other postgraduate students, then there were other different kind of researchers. And you know, she won the medal. She won the best paper medal. Right? She outperformed all. So that's the beauty of research. So I'm very happy today. Today just occurred. So if you go to that conference, right, that ICMA conference of University of Sri Lanka, you'll see that. So you can see if you work hard. So I taught her research methodology like this, and she applied that, and I guided her in her own individual research, and she won the medal. She outperformed even some academics, right? Because research is something you find innovative. So she did about ethics and also ethical education in Sri Lanka in terms of for accountants. So she came up with marvelous findings. So that's why I tell students, learn this subject very well and try to apply that. So she is one of you, an SAB student, and won the gold medal. Not the gold medal, the medal. It's not gold, it's all golden color, but it's not gold because it's very expensive gold, isn't it, these days? But again, so she won the model, right, for the best paper award in that particular track. So I also told you then how to measure the variables and why to measure the variables particularly. So yes, a student asks, so what are indicators? Indicators are things that show certain properties of certain things. So that's what we call operational definitions. You define, and then, now for an example, I define knowledge in terms of marks. That's one way to define knowledge. But it's only one way. If I give, now there's, entrepreneurial masters, entrepreneurial undergraduate studies, right? Entrepreneurial studies are there. So if I ask, Melbourne Mudalali or Navaloko Mudalali, come and do an exam in the masters where they have master's exam and entrepreneurial, right, on entrepreneurship subject, right? What will Melbourne Mudalali get for that subject? Maybe 0, because he might not know to write. I don't know. But you can see he has made billions and he has made a huge impact. So marks is only one indicator of knowledge. Right? You can see people in when you were doing your O levels, A levels, people sometimes might have got very good marks. But does it mean that they have all the knowledge of all the things of that subject area? No. So marks plus application is much more important. Right. Therefore, indicator is operational. It's only one, right? It gives a kind of a narrow definition of certain variables. Okay. So sometimes, therefore, you might need to use several indicators, not only marks. You might need to use the knowledge, right? In terms of application, in terms of the skills, which is the application in fact. So likewise, you might need to take certain variables and you might use several indicators, right? So there could be more than one indicator. Right. Is that clear? Hear that? Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So you know now why you measure things. And now let's understand what do you mean by reliability. Already I taught you about reliability in one place. එක්තරා අවස්ථාවකදී මම reliability ගැන සඳහන් කරා. කොතනද? Where did I explain about reliability? In which chapter I did discuss about reliability?
In the first chapter.
Very good. So I told you, very good. I told you how to judge whether a research is good or bad. Reliability, validity, and what's the third one? Whether the research tools that I use to collect data, is it reliable? Then whether it's valid. Then what's the third one?
Replication.
Excellent. Excellent. Who told that, Puta? Replication, who told that?
Sir Pawan.
Excellent, Puta. Pavani, spot on. She gave exactly the correct answer. What is the answer? I asked her how to distinguish between good research and not so good research. Right? I told two answers. Right? There are three things that you can use to differentiate between good and bad research or not so good research. One is reliability, then I told validity, and I asked what's the third one. So Pavani very correctly told it's replicability. 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 Replication means repeating a study, whether you can repeat that study. Now my question is, how many of you were able to tell that? Now Pavani told that instantly. But were you able to tell that? Honestly, ask yourself, were you able to tell that? Then you have to ask yourself, if Pavani, yes, Puta. No. Oh, yes. Atara Puta, kiyan puluwa unad veruna. Yes or no? I think one student honestly claimed that no, right? It's being honest is the starting point of progress. First of all, we have to be honest. We have to understand we don't know. That's the first point. Then the second point is you have to see how did Pavani do that? Pavanita පුළුවන් නම් එයි මට බැරි. Pavani කොහොමද කරන්නේ? Then replicate that. Repeat that behavior. So if you want to be successful in this world, it's very easy. Repeat what genuinely success people do. Genuinely successful, right? Not politicians, not thieves, not drug lords, not people who sell drugs, right? Not them, but genuinely successful people. What they do, repeat that, then you will be successful. Success leaves clues where you can understand and you can repeat those. So if you are a clever student, you will understand, okay, what Pavani would have done. We'll go to YouTube and just type this question. How to get straight A's? How to be a straight A student? Let me do that for you. If I were you, I will go. If I see, okay, someone is doing better, I will also inspire myself not to compete with that person, but to inspire myself. If that person could do, why can't I do? Right? That's how Japanese think. එක්කෙනෙක් හොඳ දෙයක් කරොත් අනිත් එක්කෙනාට මට ඇයි බැරි? මත් මානසිකව උත්සාහ කරන්න. ලංකාවේ කොහොමද ඉතින්? If someone has done something good, the other person will ask why I should do that. That person has done that, so why I should do it. So that kind of a negative attitude is there. So you can go to YouTube and type this question. Right. So I'll ask, okay, for an example, I'll ask how to be a straight A student. A straight A student. And then it will give several strategies. See the number of views and ratings. There are a lot of ones. A lot of good ideas are there. How to become a straight A student. So a lot of good tips. And adopt them. How to study rather than watching videos that are really good for nothing. Here there's even a nice audio book that's available. Let's go through that. It's a 4-hour read. It's an entire book, an audio book.
Introduction. My friends always wondered why I was never in the library, but instead in the student center socializing, or at a party, or at an event. They said I made it all look so easy. Anna, a straight A college student. This is not your average.
Now in that, the book begins, right? The book begins with a student who was socializing, doing a lot of other activities, and also how that person managed his or her life, in this case it's a her, and how that person became a straight A student. Straight A student doesn't mean that you have to live in the library virtually, right? Or you have to be with always books. There are certain techniques that you have to follow. So read these, watch these things, see some techniques. It's a matter of a small technique that will make a big difference. Right? So something for your life. So research these things. So it all came up with these 3 things that will distinguish between good research and bad research. I was telling you. Reliability. What's reliability? Reliability is all about stability and consistency. Whether the questions are consistent, whether the questions are stable over the time. If the questions are not stable, if the answers you get will differ substantially, then the reliability of that tool is different. Now let's say for an example, I want to measure, let's say for an example, I want to measure the length of a table. Right? I want to measure a length of a table. Right. So how to measure length of a table? We'll see. One way you can do is this. Using a matchstick. ගිනි කූරක් අරගෙන එක measure කරන්න පුළුවන්. මේසයක දිග. We'll say measuring a length of a table length by a matchstick. බලන්න තියනවාද කියලා මම දන්නේ නැහැ. දැන් මම මෙෂර් කරලා දෙනවා matchstick එකකින්. Right. So yes, here use a matchstick using a ruler to measure the length. Rather than using a ruler, you can use a pen also, right, to measure things. But would you get accurate results? මම මේසයක දිග බලනවා ගිනි කූරයි. accurate. Now, if you do that and if I do that, would we get the same result? No. You might get 10, say 100 matchsticks. I might get 101 matchsticks to see the length of a table. But on the other hand, if I use a tape to measure that, and if you use the same tape to measure that, would you get different results? No, you'll get consistent results, right? That's what reliability means. Stability and consistency. If you are going to use the same tool, regardless, whoever is going to use that tool, you will get the same result. Right? That's called reliability. That's called reliability. And I'll teach you when I teach you SPSS how to measure reliability. Then validity. What is validity? Validity simply means whether you are measuring what you are supposed to measure. What? Validity means whether you are measuring what you are supposed to measure. Now, let's say for an example, I want to measure my height. Or let's say I want to measure my weight. So what I do is I take a thermometer and put that in my mouth and see that it's 35 Celsius. Is that measure valid? දැන් මට බර බලන්න. මම උෂ්ණත්වමානයක් අරගෙන I take a thermometer and මගේ කටේ දාගන්න. ඊට පස්සේ මම බලනවා 35යි කියලා කියනවා. හරිද? මේ measure එක valid නෑ. measure එක valid නෑ. ඇයි valid නැත්තේ? Why it's not valid? Because your objective was not to take the temperature. Right? Your objective was not to take the temperature. So whatever you had taken is invalid. So validity depends on your objective. If your objective was to see the temperature, then no problem. But on the other hand, right? On the other hand, if you are trying to see the weight of the person and using a thermometer for that, that's completely wrong. That's invalid. So validity means, right, whether you are measuring what you are supposed to measure. And using the proper measurement is what you mean by reliability. That will give stable, consistent results. Let's say for an example, my objective was to see the temperature. The මට උණ වගේ දැනෙනවා. Let's say හිතන්න මට උණ හැදිලා වගේ දැනෙනවා. So I feel that I have temperature. Then I ask my wife to see my temperature. එතකොට එයා මොකද කරන්නේ? මෙව නළලේ අත තියලා බලනවා. මගේ objective එකත් temperature බලන එක. එයා මගේ නළල අත බලලා කියනවා ඔයාට උණ නැහැ. Right? මම දැන් තාත්තට කියනවා එතකොට. I tell my father to check that. My wife told that I don't have fever. My father now again uses his palm, the backside of his palm, and then, right, he sees whether I have temperature. He says, yes, you are having temperature. Now, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that measurement way? Is it a reliable measurement way to see the temperature? Is it a reliable way to see the temperature? To use your backside of your palm or your hand, whatever you call it, right? I think උණ බලන එක reliable. Is it a reliable way? No. You can see my wife told one answer. My father tells some other answer. If my mother checks that, she will tell some other answer, right? If my small daughter comes and checks that, she will tell something else. She cannot speak yet. She tells something, but she's very small. So likewise, you can see different people will get different answers, different results for the same thing, right? So that's where we say consistency is not there. It's not stable. But on the other hand, if I use a thermometer, let's say my wife uses the same thermometer, my father uses the same thermometer, and my mother uses the same thermometer, would it give the same result? If they use it at the same time? Yes. Regardless the person, regardless the time, you will get consistent results. That's what we call reliability. That is reliability. Reliability is all about stability and getting consistent results. Right? Your research tool, like the thermometer, should give consistent results. On the other hand, validity means you are trying to measure what you are supposed to measure. So what's more, what comes first, validity or reliability? ඉස්සෙල්ලා නෝයි. අර කුකුලද බිත්තරේද කියලා අහනවනේ ඉස්සෙල්ලා. මොකද ඉස්සෙල්ලා? What's more important? Not more important, both are important indeed. But what comes first, validity or reliability?
Validity.
Indeed, validity. Excellent. First of all, you have to measure what you are supposed to measure. මගේ temperature එක නම් බලන්න ඕනේ මගේ බර බලන වැඩක් නැහැ. Precise tool එකකින් මගේ බර බලන්න. I'm going to use a highly precise tool to see my weight while I wanted to see my temperature. So it might be reliable but not valid. So what comes first? Validity. So once you are trying to check what you want to check, then use the proper tool for that, a reliable tool. Right? Is this clear? Reliability and validity. පැහැදිලිද? කොහෙද කියන්නේ? පැහැදිලිද නැද්ද?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good. Excellent. Now, these are some things that you have to understand, very important in quantitative studies. In quantitative studies, you have to first use a valid tool for the measurement. Number two, you have to choose then a reliable tool. Then after the break, I'll tell what's this causality by taking one example also. For example, causality. This is not casuality, this is causality. What do you mean by causality? Right. High time to take a small break, isn't it? Put a break, right? And shall we meet at 8:20? Okay. At 8:20 we shall meet, right? Okay, students, welcome back. Hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So now let's see what's this causality. For that, I need to tell you a small story. Right? What's the story? Story is this. It was an experiment done. It was a research that was done in America, USA. Scientist, he tried to do a study like this. He took the years. Oh, let's use Excel. So he took these variables. I hope you can see the screen. So he took the year. Then he took the ice cream consumption. I think I told you this example earlier, but again, let me tell you, right? Ice cream consumption and drowning deaths. So he took from 1960s. Right? Then likewise, every year, 1961, 1962, likewise. Then he documented the ice cream consumption and the drowning deaths for several years. Right? For several years he had taken. Then what he did was, he checked the correlation between these two for those years. So it came up 0.85. What does that mean? Correlation 0.85 means what? There is a quite strong positive relationship. So he was about to conclude ice cream consumption leads to drowning deaths. Do you agree? Do you agree? Is there a causal relationship between these two variables? Causal relationship is there. Right? Is there really a relationship between these two variables? Students, does drowning deaths leads ice cream consumption leads to drowning deaths?
No.
No. Very good.
No.
No. Very nice. There is no causal relationship. There is no causal relationship. Then there is only a correlation between these two. Between these two, you just have a correlation. So what you have to understand is there is a difference between causation and correlation. Correlation and causation are different. Correlation means that there's just an association between two variables like this. On the other hand, let's take this example. Advertising expenditure. You take advertising expenditure, ad expenditure, and let's say revenue. Now you are going to track for months, January, February. Likewise, you are going to track. For several months, you are going to see for the last 5 years, 60 months. You are going to see the ad expenditure and the revenue. So you now get 0.86. Now here do you see what? A correlation or causation? What you see? What do you see, students?
Causation.
Causation. Very good. So ad expenditure, when it increases, when the ad expenditure goes, right? When the ad expenditure goes up, right? It will increase the revenue. Right? When the ad expenditure goes up like this, it increases the revenue. So there's a positive relationship. Right? Exactly. Extremely correct. But now if you go to the early example, let's go to the early example. Now here you have ice cream consumption and drowning deaths. Here you don't have, right? Here you don't have, in fact, any causation. But there's no causality. There's no causality. Ice cream consumption doesn't lead to drowning deaths. What really causes this? What really causes this? Can you tell me? Can you tell me what really causes this? Tell me, think and tell me.
So can you repeat the question, sir, please?
Sorry for that, I got a call. And yes, let me, some student asked to kindly repeat the question. So the question is this, Buddha. Now I want to see that whether ice cream consumption leads to drowning deaths. No, but probably we cannot conclude that ice cream consumption leads to drowning deaths. So there's no causality. Cause and effect. Causality is cause and effect. Right? Causality means what? Cause and effect. Cause and effect is what you mean by causality. Now here there is no causality. Cause and effect and then right, you can see probably there is no causality. No causality. So how can we explain this relationship then? How can we explain this relationship? Can someone tell me? How can we explain this relationship? What really has happened? Right? There's a third variable. That variable is called temperature. We can tolerate temperature. Right? So what has happened is when temperature goes up, what happens? It impacts ice cream consumption. And ice cream consumption goes up. And when temperature also increases, drowning deaths goes up because people tend to use more water, like waterfalls, rivers and other things they will be using because if the temperature goes up. So not that because ice cream consumption leads to any drowning deaths, right? This is not the relationship. When temperature goes up, it influences both ice cream consumption as well as drowning deaths at the same time. So you can very well see that here you don't have causality. Here you have a co-founding variable. Now here temperature is known as the co-founding variable. It's called the co-founding variable. So that variable impacts the ice cream consumption as well as the drowning deaths. With that clear, Buddha? So you have to understand this very well. So that's what we understand, right, by this causality. Right, this causality is that. Causality is where we are trying to see the relationship between the independent and the dependent variable. Now revenue, the advertising expenditure and revenue. Advertising expenditure is the independent variable. The dependent variable is what? The revenue. There, of course, causality is there. But I try to explain that when it comes to ice cream consumption and drowning deaths, in fact, that there is no real relationship. Right? So I try to explain you again, right? Reliability, validity, and causality. Is that clear? Is that clear, Buddha?
Yes.
Okay, good. Now let's take another characteristic of quantitative research is the generalizability. Now, if we take a representative sample, a proper representative sample, we try to generalize the findings. We try to generalize the findings. For an example, let's say I want to see, let's say it all depends on your scope. I want to see the satisfaction of audit trainees in Sri Lanka. Right? I want to see the satisfaction of audit trainees in Sri Lanka. So if my topic was that, right? If I take only audit trainees from KPMG and see their satisfaction, is it generalizable? I take only KPMG audit trainees and take their satisfaction. Is it generalizable to all audit trainees in Sri Lanka? Generalizable means that whether
No.
you can take it to no, because it's only one place, isn't it? So therefore, in a quantitative study, if you take a representative sample, now let's say you take KPMG, EY, then midterm audit firms, then small scale audit firms, right? You take all trainees, let's say you take about 500 trainees from these different entities representing different sectors, different sizes, and different cultures, right, in Sri Lanka. And if you take a representative sample, then can you generalize that to the whole population? Can you generalize that to the whole population? Can you? If you take a good sample, a sample that could represent the population, in that case, is it generalizable? Yes. because it's a representative sample. It represents the population. That's called, right, a sample that you can generalize. So in a quantitative study, that's what you do. You take a representative sample and try to generalize the findings to a population, as you do in an audit. In an audit, you take a sample and you then generalize to the financial statements. You take only a sample. Maybe you will take sample invoices, sales invoices, and then you tell an opinion about the entire sales, whether it's true and fair. So you try to generalize. That's what you do in a quantitative study. But however, right, in a qualitative study, usually what you do is you will take only one case. I told you under research designs, the fourth and fifth are case study design. In a case study design, you take only one case. Can you generalize that? Now I take JKH and I see why they are successful. Can I generalize that? Can I generalize that to HEMAS? Can I generalize to Srilanka Telecom? Can I generalize? I can't. Because JKH is unique in this world. There's only one JKH. So it cannot be generalized. The findings cannot be generalized. But in a quantitative, that's for a qualitative study. So case study design is usually adopted by a qualitative study, case study design. But in a quantitative study, you try to generalize. You try to generalize in a quantitative study. Right. So that's what you do. You take a large sample, a representative sample, and you do statistical analysis and try to generalize the findings to the population. In an audit also you do that. But in a qualitative study where you use a case study, usually you cannot generalize because it relates to only the case. So therefore keep in mind, generalizability is one characteristic of a quantitative research. Right? Is that clear? Is that clear, Buddha? Yes. Okay, good. And if you have any questions, you can ask me. Then we shall go to the replication. Replication is what? Repeating the study. Now, if I am interested in knowing the student satisfaction at SAB, I can give you a questionnaire for degrees, degree holder, the people who are following the degree, the students who are following the degree. I can give a questionnaire. And of course, I can use the same questionnaire. I can replicate the study in some other university. Right? Replication is that, whether you can repeat. Now, usually scientific experiment should be able to repeat it. If it cannot be repeated, then it's not scientific. Now, when they tried to find a COVID-19 vaccine, they tried the same vaccine in different countries. And what they expected to replicate the findings. Now, if they find in UK that vaccine is successful, they will try to repeat the study in Sri Lanka and see whether you get the same result, replication. If it is not giving the same result, then that study might be an issue. That medicine might be an issue. It might not be replicated. Sometimes you cannot replicate studies, particularly case studies, right? The case study results that you get for JKH cannot be repeated in some other study for some other company. So this is what you mean by replication. Replication. Okay, repeating. Right. So already I taught you about the quantitative research process. I call it the so-called scientific research process. Can you remember? Can you remember the scientific research process that I taught you? How many steps were there?
7 steps.
7 steps are there. Excellent. 7 steps are there. So again, I have given this, right? And so what are the 7 steps? Can you remember? First of all, define the research problem. That's step number 1. Then step number 2, look at the literature. Literature, very good. Look at the literature. Step number 3. First step number 3, develop hypothesis. Hypothesis development. Then step number 4. First step number 4, design the research. That's step number 4. Right? Then step number 5. First step number 5, implement the research, meaning gather the data. Then step number 6, what's that? Analyze the data. Then step number 7, report the results. Today, my SAB student who won the medal for the best paper award, right, communicated her findings to all of us. So that's how you communicate that, interpret and communicate that information to others, right? This is the process of quantitative research. Then finally, what are the criticisms of quantitative research? So these are the disadvantages of quantitative research. Actually, the main criticism comes whether you can measure everything and anything, right? Can you measure complex social concepts? Can you measure things like love? Can you measure things like hatred, jealousy, and other complex human behavior? Can you measure them? No, can't. Difficult, isn't it? Difficult. Actually, it's difficult to measure. It's really difficult to measure. Right? It's difficult to measure, and that's what you have to understand. It's quite very challenging to measure those things. But again, as quantitative research, we believe things could be measured, and we try to measure them as well. Right? Okay. So under this topic, these are the things we discussed. We discussed these 4, the interrelated things, concepts, variables, indicators, and measurement. We took several examples. And then we discussed why we should measure things, to look at the level, to see the differences and to see the relationships. Then also you can see what are indicators. One student also asked that, and we might use multiple indicators. Then I discussed what's reliability, validity, causality, and generalizability. And then I discussed also replicability. These are all characteristics of quantitative research. Then I reminded you what's the process of quantitative research. What's the process of quantitative research? And finally, I told you the main criticism against quantitative research is that, right, we challenge the belief that whether we can quantitatively express deep, intricate, complex human behavior. So that's one of the main criticisms against quantitative research. Okay. Right. Any questions you have? Do you have any questions? Questions, concerns? Is this clear? Students, you have to give me a feedback.
Yes, sir. That's clear.
Okay,
Yes,
Putta,
all good.
good. All good. Good to go. Right. Okay. So that ends this topic then. And then we can go to the next topic, topic number 7, right? Sampling. Right. And I will teach you how to use Microsoft Excel to perform sampling here as well. Right. You can use Microsoft Excel for sampling. All right. So what is sampling? What do you mean by sampling? Maybe next time I'll teach you. So we'll meet. I think these are new topics, so we'll today finish a little bit early, and we'll discuss this topic, sampling, next week. Okay, and we'll use Microsoft Excel for this purpose as well. Okay, so we'll have because we have a short amount of time today, so we'll discuss this next week and have a nice comprehensive discussion. Okay, so with that, then we'll complete for today. And let me wish you all the best. We shall meet this Saturday indeed, right, for digital business strategy, and then meet week after next week for the research methodology subject. Okay, Putta, with that, then we'll finish today a little bit early. Thank you very much for your participation, and we'll see next week. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Putta. Thank you. Thank you, Putta. Good night, Dharu. Good night.
Thank you. Good night,
Putta.
sir.
Good night, Putta. Thank you. And
Thank you. Good night,
Dharu.
sir.
Good night, Dharu. Good night, Putta. Good night.